Hey, welcome back to another edition of Painting the Characters from the Dark Souls universe. I've just come back from an hour's worth of vocal coaching, so let's hope my voice doesn't give out. Today, we're going to take a look at painting a character from one of the most beloved boss duos in the series, Father Ariandel. So let's engage in some jolly cooperation as we go through my steps to painting the Keeper of the Painted World.
And engage in jolly cooperation.
Read it to me, please.
So in the same style as the last video with Siegmeyer, I'm going to start off with this 3D printed model that I have primed with some black spray paint. And for this video, I'm going to be testing out my new brush set from Winsor & Newton. It's the Series 7 set and was a birthday present to me from my sister. Now these brushes are a bit more expensive than standard brushes, but the price is justified as they hold paint so much better than cheap brushes and are so much better for using when it comes to more advanced techniques like wet blending, which we'll be trying out today. So for wet blending, you'll need a wet palette, preferably with a clean sheet. I'll just go and change this one. That's better. Just line up my paints here. Now, I'm no master at wet blending. It's something I'm working on improving and getting better at, but for something like his cloak, I think wet blending would be great to try bring out some of the highlights and shadows in the ridges of the cloth. I'll begin by applying a thin first coat of Dark Reaper all over the cloak. Now, the idea behind wet blending is to have a very wet base colour that you can start blending in other colours and shades and create a smooth gradient effect. It's a technique you see used for glow effects, skin tones, fire effects, and so much more. Now with the first coat applied, we'll apply a second slightly thicker coat and use a lighter colour with Cantor Blue and an even lighter one still with Lothern Blue. We'll start to mix them to create different highlight tones. So normally with light you would get more colour and light on the raised parts and darker and less colour on the lower parts. So I'll be applying the light blends to the higher parts and start blending them down to create the gradient effect. What I also like to do once I have a good mix applied to the model is just wash off the paint from the brush and use it to just spread the paint around a bit to start blending the colours together a bit more. Then just keep building out the shadows and the highlights using darker and lighter mixes until you're happy with the gradient. If you've kept each layer quite thin, you shouldn't see much in the way of brush strokes. Now I'll just repeat this process across the whole of his cloak, making sure to keep the shadowed parts darker and bring out more light and colour on the higher parts. So I see a lot of talk online discussing whether Ornstein and Smaug or Father Ariandel and Frida are the best duo boss in the series. But I gotta say that, Ornstein and Smaug definitely had a longer lasting impact on me, and just the pure relief I felt when I finally beat them for the first time is honestly, it's been unmatched in Souls. Probably because I was much worse back then and I'm better now, so I don't get that same feeling I had when besting them. But I think with Fried and Father Ariandel, they have a more interesting backstory, with Fried being like the unkindled Ashen One, much the same as we are, and convincing him to keep the flame from burning the world and letting them all rot together. So he just sits tied to his chair, flailing himself, using his blood to keep the flame at bay. Some pretty intense stuff. Now for something slightly easier, we'll be applying some coats of Retributor Armour and Runelord Brass to his bowl and just lightly dry brush these colours on, making sure we're adding more colour to the wider part of the bowl and leaving less colour towards the bottom to give it that nice worn shadowy kind of look. The only thing that's missing is some of the details from the bowl, but we work with what we have. Make sure to paint the inside of the bowl as well, don't forget about that. I think it would be quite nice next time to add some fire effects to this, I reckon. Anyway, next up it's the chair, and just using a standard Citadel layer brush, apply a layer of Catacan Flesh as the base, and dry brush on some layers of Mournfang Brown and Xandri Dust to bring out some of the wooden highlights. Using an old enough dry brush should leave some faint brush marks on the model, which actually work out to add some nice texture for the wood. Now with the layer brush, just add some Xandri Dust onto the ropes around the chair, and apply some lead belcher to the feet of the chair to give it a metal look. Or just keep it wooden if you want. I think it's fully wooden in the game, but I painted them metal. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So sadly at this point my second camera died, so we'll just have to live with the one camera for now. So with just the one camera angle, we'll be painting the skin, but it's going to be the same techniques we've used for the cloak, so hopefully you've already got an idea. For his skin, I've used a mixed blend of Celestia Grey and Kislev Flesh to create a dull, dead-like skin tone, using more of the grey to make sure the skin remains quite lifeless. So using the same wet blending technique, I'll be attempting to create a similar effect for his arms here. I've also added in some Bugman's Glow to act as blemishes and burn marks for the skin, as it gives a nice little reddish tint to certain areas, and I'm going to be doing the same for his legs, his torso, and for his face. For me, I'd say Fried and Father Ariandel are definitely in my top Souls bosses for sure. I'm not sure whereabouts, but definitely at the top. Definitely going to have to print a Frieda model to sit with this guy. I don't think anyone's going to top Gale for me in terms of greatest Souls bosses. I am going to do a video on Gale. He's just a bit of a nightmare to print and get put together. But don't worry, I will do one for him. Saying all that, Black Flame Fried does come close to Gale, I reckon. But hey, let me know in the comments where you would rank them. And just in time for painting his hair, my second camera came back to life. So here I'm starting off with a base of Corax White and applying it all over the hair. With the first layer added, I used different grey tones of Celestia Grey, Administratum Grey and Ashen Grey to start blending in darker shades, starting from the middle and working outwards. Now I'm not amazing at painting hair or skin, but this seemed to be a good workaround and gave me more chance to practice wet blending. And camera 2 died again. But again, same as before, just apply these same wet blending techniques over his hair and you should get a cool blended effect. Thinking about it, I think his cloak and his hair are actually a fair bit darker in the game. But if I was to stick to that logic, I would have so many just super dark models on my shelf, and having a bit of colour didn't really hurt anyone, I don't think. Maybe next time I do him, I'll add in some fire effects as he's throwing the bowl around. I'm also going to have to figure out a way to create the black flame effect for Frieda as well. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Now with a wash of Seraphim Sepia, I'm going to use an old shade brush just to apply this all over the chair to give it some contrast and definition and give it that old wood look. And there we have him, a wonderful Father Ariandel ready for the flail. Thanks for tuning in everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Painting the Souls characters. If you did, please drop a like, leave a comment and hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments of any tips or tricks with wet blending, I'd love to hear them. Also give me a heads up if there's any models in particular from the Souls series that you would like to see painted next. But for now, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time, and don't you dare go hollow.